FTX filed some bankruptcy paperwork and it is juicy. We are going to go through it. The individual who is representing the entity now is saying this is unprecedented. Hasn't seen anything quite like this. And he's done a lot of this stuff. He's done this type of work for Enron and other entities. And he's looking at this collapse and he's going, whoo, we've got a lot to unpack. So we're going to get into that full bankruptcy document. But first, we have to ask ourselves, are there going to be any repercussions for SBF? Sam Bankman-Fried, of course, the founder of FTX, the person responsible for tens of billions of dollars evaporating essentially overnight. We're asking, are there going to be inquiries? The Hill is reporting that the House Committee on Finances is investigating the FTX collapse. We'll see. Here's SBF, you can see in front of the House some time ago, testified previously in front of the committee called the House Financial Services Committee. Who's on that committee? Oh yeah, Maxine Waters, Patrick McHenry. They're the top lawmakers on the committee. The House Financial Services Committee is going to hold a hearing next month to investigate the collapse of FTX. Maxine Waters and Patrick McHenry said that they expect disgraced founder Sam Bankman-Fried to appear before Congress. The fall of FTX has posed tremendous harm to over 1 million users, they said, many of whom were everyday people invested their hard-earned earnings into FTX, and it just disappeared overnight. FTX declared bankruptcy. 1 million users could face losses, and it's been an absolute disaster. Now, there's been a big question about that because we know who Maxine Waters is, and Maxine Waters has been on the Finance Committee for some period of time. In fact, when Sam Bankman-Fried was in front of Maxine Waters the last time, she gave him a little old kissy poo as he was walking out. She did a little bit of, bye, Sam. I love you. Thank you for all those donos in the form of millions of dollars to the Democratic Party. Bye, sweetie. Love ya. Bye. There it is. Now, there's the kiss, but then she does a little get out of here, you know? So it's kind of like, I love you, but get out of here, right? Watch the little flick away. Do you see that? Here it is. I love you, but not that much. Get the heck out of here. So the question, of course, is Maxine Waters, gonna really be bringing the ruckus onto Sam Bankman-Fried? I mean, she's obviously out there fighting for her constituents and fighting for all the millions of people who got dispossessed by this thief. But she's giving him the old kissy poo. And presumably she got a lot of money from him, or at least the Democrats did. All right, so that's Maxine giving the old kissy poo. Now, we're going to take a look at some other stuff, including, well, let me talk about this right now. Maxine Waters was presumably going to be investigating him. But if you didn't see this, there was a wild catch on Twitter. Jeremy Lafredo, he said that our friend Sam Bankman-Fried, the $10 billion liquidation king, he is or was scheduled on November 30th to go and have an event at the New York Times. They were hosting an event from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. A premier sponsor was Accenture, hosted in New York City, a live event featuring, look who's there. Look who's there. It's the whole crew. We've got SBF from FTX. We've got President Vladimir Zelensky, who's going to be there November 30th, just a couple days away. And Mark Zuckerberg, along with Janet Yellen, the United States Department Treasury. All of these people, all meeting at the New York Times. Very curious. Very, very, very curious. Yeah. And yesterday on the show, we talked about the cleaning of the money circle that goes on. You've got the old SBF who takes the money, cleans it in crypto. It goes somewhere else. Part of it goes back to Ukraine. He said they've created a whole foundation to sort of clean the money and send it back over to them. They're meeting with Zuckerberg, who of course suppressed all sorts of information, banned Donald Trump. And then we've got Janet Yellen, who is the Treasury Secretary, and she's got all sorts of, other interesting things going on with her. So what is going on here? And then after FTX starts coming under the microscope, the New York Times posts a gigantic loser puff piece about what a great guy this is and how much he was giving back to the community with all of his money. So the story just gets weirder and weirder. We're going to take a look at the full bankruptcy filing because it is a doozy to read through. And we're also going to check in with a major competitor to FTX called Binance. And CZ is here. He's got 2 clips for us about the call that he had with SBF, Sam, and he details about his strategy as well. Now, he's going to be coming under investigation from United States officials because they're very angry that he took out their golden calf. But we'll check in with him in a quick minute. But first, we've got to talk about survival food because nobody wants to starve to death in the current environment. And so 4patriots.com is the place to go. You know, a food shortage could be coming. Experts have been talking about this as recently as July. We've got drought, inflation, collapsing crypto exchanges, new policies, the food supply coming to a breaking point. That's why survival food is now more important than ever. And you can create your own stockpile by going to 4patriots.com. It's not ordinary food. This is 25-year-long survival food. It's hand-packed right here in family-owned facilities in the United States, creating 200 American jobs. These are delicious. Breakfast, lunches, and dinners. You can make these meals in less than 20 minutes. All you've got to do is boil, simmer, and serve. And right now, you can go to 4patriots.com, use promo code Robert at checkout. Get 10% off your first purchase on anything in the store, including their famous 3-month survival food kit. Now, anything that is shipped to you has a guarantee for 1 year. Orders over 97 include free shipping. A portion of all proceeds from every sale at 4Patriots goes to support our veterans and their families. And so you can go to 4patriots.com, use promo code Robert to get 10% off of your order today. That's promo code Robert at 4patriots.com. All right. And so now it's time to actually get into the bankruptcy filing because there is some good stuff here. 30 pages filed out of the Delaware District Court for the bankruptcy court. You see, this is a declaration of John J. III in support of Chapter 11 petitions. These are pleadings submitted in the bankruptcy proceedings in re FTX Trading, FTX Trading et al. As the debtors. Now, if we scroll down, we can see sort of we've got exhibits here. We've got the final signature by the CEO. Okay, this is John J. III declaring all of this as true. And so the way that this works is basically this guy comes in, he does a full assessment of FTX's situation. And this is what he's declaring to the bankruptcy court. He's explaining to them, this is what I am seeing, and this is what I'm going to need to help sort of close this whole situation up. He says, I, John, declare under the penalty of perjury that I am the CEO of the debtors called FTX. I've accepted this position the early morning hours of November 11th, right? They brought this guy in. Hey, we got to go to bankruptcy. Can you help us? Yes, I can. Okay. Says, I'm administering the interest and affairs of the debtors from my offices here in the States. My first official act in these roles was to authorize the Chapter 11 filings of the debtors. And since my appointment, I've worked around the clock with teams at a number of different law firms like Alvarez, Sullivan, Nardello, and others. We have worked with a confidential cybersecurity firm, and we've secured the assets of the debtors wherever located to identify reliable books and records, to assemble information necessary to provide to this court, and to respond to numerous inquiries from multiple regulators and government authorities, including the CFTC, the SEC, U.S. Congress, and others. Okay, so basically this guy's like walking into a war zone, and he's giving the court an update. Says, all right, here's what's up. I walked into the office. Everything was on fire. So here, I grabbed this extinguisher and that extinguisher, and here's what I'm doing. He says, I have over 40 years of legal restructuring experience. I've been the chief restructuring officer and CEO in several of the largest corporate failures in history. I've supervised situations involving allegations of crimes and malfeasance like Enron. I've supervised situations involving novel financial structures like Enron and Residential Capital. Also cross-border asset recovery like Nortels and overseas ship holdings. And nearly every situation in which I have been has involved and been characterized by defects of something, right? Whether there were internal controls, they didn't comply with regulations, there were human resource problems, or just their systems were broken. Very qualified. Been doing this for a long time. Enron, Residential Capital, Nortel, shipping companies. John says, never in my career over 40 years. Have I seen such a complete failure of corporate controls and such a complete absence of trustworthy financial information as occurred here? From compromised systems integrity, faulty regulatory oversight abroad, to the concentration of control in the hands of a very small group of inexperienced, unsophisticated, and potentially compromised individuals, this situation is unprecedented. These Chapter 11 cases have 5 core objectives. 1, implementation of controls. He's saying, we got to get control of this situation. I've got the implementation of accounting, audit, cash management, cybersecurity, HR, risk management, data. All of these things, they didn't exist for this company. A multi-billion-dollar company, $50 billion at one point. And they did not exist. Asset protection and recovery. The location and the security of the estate. Huge portions of this missing or stolen. Trying to figure that out. Working on transparency, he says. The pending comprehensive and deliberate investigation into claims against SBF are all taking place with regulators in the US and elsewhere. He says, I'm working on efficiency with other jurisdictions, and I'm trying to maximize the value for everybody who was totally screwed. Except as otherwise indicated, he says, these facts in this filing are based on my personal knowledge. I'm over 18 and I know what I'm talking about. He says, for the purpose of this case, I've identified 4 groups of businesses to which I refer as silos. So we've got these different, we like to use the word buckets on this show, but he's calling them silos. Okay, we'll indulge. He says the silos include a group of these debtors called the WRS. We've got FTX US, we've got Alameda, and others. Each of the silos, all 4 of them, was controlled by SBF. Different entities were owned with other partners, 2% equity in the different silos. The WRS silo also is split up. Ledger X owns and operates other portions of this. Okay, it's all spread out all over the place. Companies like BlockFi are implicated. John says, I have been provided with an unaudited, consolidated balance sheet for the silo on September 30th. Here is the latest available. This sheet shows $1.36 billion in total assets. However, because this asset sheet was produced while the debtors were controlled by SBF, I've got no confidence in that. This chart below summarizes some of the information that we have, right? $1.3 billion in assets right there. To my knowledge, this doesn't have any long-term funded debt. These are the balance sheets on other entities. He talks about Alameda. Now, Alameda was sort of the research arm, right? We have the FTX exchange, which you could get on there and buy, sell crypto. But then you had Alameda, which was sort of its hedge fund, right? They were doing their investments. They were doing all sorts of trading to sort of maximize gains. The parent company that operated in the Alameda silo is Alameda Research. They're organized in Delaware. Now, before this filing, Alameda operated trading funds, crypto assets. They had arbitrage, market making, all sorts of stuff. They were the crypto hedge fund with a diversified business trading and digital assets and related loans. Bankman controlled 90% of this entity. The balance sheet showed that they've got $13 billion in total assets, but he says, I've got no confidence in this at all. You see the numbers, $13 billion there. Other liabilities of $5 billion or $5 million there. But he says that he's got no confidence in any of this stuff. There's a venture silo, which is another giant entity. Total assets there. We talked some about venture. And then there's .com. 2.2 million there. Now, the events leading up to this, okay, so that's the summation. Those are all the moving pieces. He says, FTX had to file this document because they faced a severe liquidity crisis. On November 11, 2022, in the days leading up to that date, certain circumstances described below became known to a bunch of other people in FTX. A big group of executives began to start asking questions. They said, uh-oh, what's going on with Mr. Bankman-Fried? His leadership might be problematic. As the situation became increasingly dire, lawyers were engaged to talk about restructuring. On November 10th, the security commissions of the Bahamas, they took actions to freeze non-debtor FTX digital markets. Another person filed Chapter 7 or Chapter 15 bankruptcy petitions, and this moved forward. Now, at the same time, negotiations were being held between certain individuals at FTX and SBF concerning his resignation. SBF consulted with numerous lawyers, including these lawyers, and he also talked to his father, Paul Joseph Bankman. He works at Stanford Law. A document affecting relinquishment of control was prepared, and comments from SBF team were incorporated. On Friday, November 11th, after consultation with Bankman's lawyers, SBF ultimately agreed to resign. That's when I got appointed as the CEO. I was delegated all corporate powers, and I have the power to do all of this stuff. Other than these proceedings, I'm allowed to do this. Now, since SBF was booted out of there and this guy took over as CEO, many of the companies did not have appropriate corporate governance. And so I have created that, right? He's appointing different people. Rosenberg's a partner. He's got 25 years. He's going to come in and help. We've got Ventures Silo, Rishi Jain. He's going to come in and help. .com Silo, this former judge is going to come in. Matthew Dohe's, somebody else very smart, I'm sure. The directors, they're going to, run this thing like an actual company. They're going to have joint board meetings. They're going to have controls, asset protection, recovery, talking about business investments, and actually, organizing their spreadsheets. Now, the FTX group, they say, did not maintain any centralized control of its cash. Cash management procedures and the failures included the absence of an accurate list of bank accounts. They don't even know where their money is. And they also had insufficient attention to creditworthiness of banking partners around the world. So they're getting all of that situated. Each silo is going to have a cash pool. You can see what bankruptcy looks like, or why we don't spend any effort at our law firm doing any of this stuff. A lot of numbers. But this is the debtors. They've been in contact. They're building out some financial reporting systems. And he says, I have substantial concerns as to the information in these statements, especially with .com. He says, as a practical matter, I do not believe it appropriate for stakeholders or the court to rely on these audited financial statements. We haven't been able to locate anything with respect to Alameda or Ventures. It's all gone. No auditable financial statements at all. Now, when it comes to human resources, the FTX group's approach combined employees of various entities and outside contractors, and there were unclear lines of responsibility. Debtors have been unable to prepare a complete list of who worked for the FTX group. They didn't even know who their employees were on the petition date or the terms of their employment. Repeated attempts to locate certain presumed employees to confirm their status have been unsuccessful. I don't even really work here. Nevertheless, there is a core team of dedicated employees at the FTX who have stayed focused on their jobs during the crisis and with whom I've established appropriate lines of authority. There's still a bunch of people working there. FTX continues to review personnel issues, but I expect, based on my experience, that a large number of employees of the debtors will continue to work for them for the foreseeable future. That's going to establish accountability, preserve value, and maximize recovery. He says, as a CEO, I am thankful for the extraordinary efforts of this group of employees. Yeah, shout out to all of the good employees at FTX, right? And this guy's saying, shout out to them, who despite difficult circumstances, right? Many of them probably got obliterated. Gosh, can you imagine? It's like, yeah, they're going to give you a bunch of this FTT token. You're a great employee. Here, take some more FTT. Oh, great. All gone. They're all still working there. Or not all of them, but a portion of them. They've risen to the occasion. They've demonstrated their critical importance. Now, he says, we're preparing one or more motions to address issues related to this, and you're going to see much more filings out of me. He says that FTX did not have any disbursement controls that I believe are appropriate. He says, for example, the FTX group submitted payment requests through an online chat platform where a disparate group of supervisors approved disbursements by responding with personalized emojis. So somebody says in their Slack channel, they say, yo, SBF, can I spend $50 million? I got to go support Mark Kelly in Arizona. And they say, SBF says, What kind of emoji would he respond on that? Rocket ship? Because he's going to space? Rocket ship emoji. Boo! Mark Kelly gets $70 million. Yay, great. That's what they're doing. In the Bahamas, I understand that corporate funds of the FTX group were used to purchase homes and other personal items for employees and advisors. Can I go buy a house? Can I buy a Lambo? Thumbs up. Lambo. Yeah, thumbs up. Lambo. Race car. Pregnant man, pregnant man with a baby. Who knows what they're doing in there? I understand that there does not appear to be documentation for these certain transactions, and that the real estate was recorded in the personal name of these employees, not the names of the companies. The debtors are now figuring this out. He says, we're going to stop that from happening. When it comes to digital asset custody, the FTX group did not keep appropriate books and records or security controls with respect to its digital assets. SBF and Mr. Wang controlled access to digital assets of the main businesses in FTX, with the exception of the Ledger X stuff. Unacceptable management practices included the use of an unsecured group email account as the root user to access confidential private keys and critically sensitive data for the FTX group companies around the world. Oh my gosh. Oh, unbelievable. Their confidential private keys are stored in a publicly accessible group email. Oh my gosh. The absence of daily reconciliation of positions on the blockchain, the use of software to conceal the misuse of customer funds, the secret exemption of Alameda from certain aspects of FTX auto liquidation protocol, and the absence of independent governance as between Alameda, who own 90% by SBF and 10% by Wang, and the .com silo as well. The debtors have located and secured only a fraction of the digital assets. The debtors have secured in new cold wallets. So he says, we've got back about 740 million of cryptocurrencies that they believe is attributable to one of the silos. But we haven't been able to determine how much of this cryptocurrency is allocable by silo or other areas. The balances exclude cryptocurrency not under control of the debtors, at least 372 million. Whoa. $372 million of unauthorized transfers initiated on the petition date, during which time the debtors immediately began moving cryptocurrency into cold storage to mitigate the risk of the remaining cryptocurrency that was accessible at the time. So they are fighting over the cryptocurrencies, is what this paragraph says. Wow. Okay. So remember when all of this was happening, if you have money in FTX, or you had money in FTX, or you thought you had money in FTX, or you did, but now you don't, a lot of people were trying to log in and pull their money off of the exchange, right? To take this stuff so that, if it's on the exchange, it's their crypto. If you pull it off and you store your keys and you store your crypto in cold storage, it's your crypto. But here, right, the date that they were filing this bankruptcy petition, they're saying that 372 million starts getting offloaded out of the exchange, right? They've got their handle on 740 million in cold storage. They've got all of that, 740 million. But as soon as this hits the docket, 372 starts getting evaporated. So they start freaking out. They take the other half of the crypto and they start putting it into their, they start moving it around because somebody's taking it. The minting of approximately 300 million in FTT tokens by an unauthorized source after the petition date, and the failure of the co-founders to identify additional wallets. This is like shocking, man. Wow. So all sorts of really bad stuff was happening as they were filing this bankruptcy petition. All the rats were taking the money out of the ship. In response, FTX has engaged forensic analysts to identify the debtor assets on the blockchain. And all of this is in a public ledger, so they'll just be able to follow it around. Cybersecurity professionals have been brought in to identify the parties responsible for the unauthorized transactions on and after the petition date, right? Once you declare bankruptcy, you can't go take all of your assets and start offloading them, right? You sell a bunch of widgets, you got a bunch of widgets in your inventory at your store. You say, I'm bankrupt. I can't fulfill any of my orders. I can't pay my employees, whatever. You don't get to keep all the widgets and then go sell those on your own. Like, oh, well, they're still mine. No, it's all part of the business, right? It's all being liquidated. So they say, help us fix this. And then they offload $400 million. They're going to begin the process of identifying what may be very substantial transfers of debtor property in the months leading up to the petition. The debtors team include businesses, accounting, forensics, technical, legal resources. He says that I believe are among the best in the world to track these activities. It's my expectation that debtors will require assistance from the court as this proceeds. Now, although this investigation has only begun and must run its course, it is my view that based on the information I've got to date, that many of the employees of the FTX group, including some of its senior executives, were not aware of the shortfalls or the potential commingling of the digital assets. Indeed, I believe some of the people most hurt by these events are current and former employees and executives whose personal investments and reputations have suffered. I can't even imagine. These are many of the same people whose work will be necessary to ensure the maximization of value for all stakeholders. So, you're working at this company. This company pays you in a fake asset. The fake asset was valuable. You thought, oh my gosh, I've got hundreds of thousands of dollars saved up. It's all zero. Now you're being asked to stick around at the same company to fix the company, to maybe claw some of that back. Maybe. I have a lot of respect for the people in these positions who are working through this. It's like a bomb went off and they're fighting through it. Now, custody of other assets and investments. It says the FTX group had billions of dollars in investments other than cryptocurrency. However, the main companies of Alameda and Ventures did not keep complete books or records. And what we are doing now is building from the bottom up. We've got no top-down records, and so we're trying to locate the investments to assemble what we've got. Now, one of the most pervasive failures of XTX.com in particular is the absence of lasting records of decision-making. SBF often communicated by using applications that were set to auto-delete. After a certain period of time. And he encouraged employees to do the same. No records at all. No emails, no Slack messages, no search and find, no I did this or that. Amazing. The debtors now, he says, we're writing things down. The investigative effort is underway, led by myself and a team at a law firm that reports directly to me, including a former director of the SEC, a former director of the CFTC, a former chief of complex frauds and cybercrime units from the US DOJ. So this guy's got a bunch of ex-government, like prosecutor investigators going after him. I regard ensuring the comprehensiveness, professionalism, and integrity of this investigation as an essential part of my job as CEO. He says transparencies with regulators around the world is a very important objective. And since Friday, the debtors FTX, we've been in contact with dozens of regulators throughout the United States and the world. It says that the FTX group included regulated and licensed subsidiaries, and we're going to try to engage with them. Says that FTX does have cryptocurrency, digital assets, and other critically sensitive data in repositories that have been the subject of unauthorized attempts at access. People are still trying to hack into these wallets. The debtors have implemented certain defensive measures. The debtors have been advised that attempts to access this property of the estate may create a risk of loss to unauthorized persons. FTS expects to seek relief from the court to authorize measures to access this information as safely as possible. The debtors are unable to create a list of their top 50 creditors that includes customers because without access to this data, and they might need the court's help to get this resolved. Finally, and critically, John J. III says the debtors have made clear to employees that the public that Mr. Bankman-Fried is not employed by FTX and does not speak for them. SBF, currently in the Bahamas, continues to make erratic and misleading public statements. SBF, whose communications and connections to financial holdings in the Bahamas remain unclear to me, recently stated to a reporter on Twitter, F regulators, they make everything worse, and suggested the next step for him was, quote, to win a jurisdictional battle versus Delaware. SBF may not say, I'm coming back at all. I'm just going to hang out here in the Bahamas. Come get me, United States. Shocking developments from John J. III, who is filing the bankruptcy petition on behalf of FTX. Here's a summary of the exhibits and the indicative assets. You can see 4 silos. If you zoom out on this, this is what it looks like. This is how he's going to go recover assets. Okay, so if you're out there, if you got totally screwed by FTX, as many people did, this is what his plan is. SBF, of course, the head honcho at the top. He's got a partnership that gives him 90% of the stake with Alameda. Gary Wang's got 10%. 67%, 2/3 with Gary Wang and somebody else over at ventures.com. Third-party investors, 75%, 52% with WRS. Amazing. All of these different entities. Look at this. FTX US, LedgerX, Vault Gaming, NFTs, BlockFi, Treasuries, Sequoia Capital, Anthropic, various investments, real estate, all sorts of stuff. Just absolutely amazing. Now, this is, wow, look at this. This is the organizational chart that this guy's team has drafted for us. FTX didn't have anything like this, obviously. But here's Sam Bankman-Fried. And these are all of the different entities that they were wrapped up in. So you can see, oh my gosh, just how deep this goes. And they were just printing money. I mean, this is printing money, sending it everywhere to all of these different subsidiaries. Look at all these things. Can you imagine all the spreadsheets that you'd have to get organized? It's like, man, no wonder this guy lost $10 billion. This is a lot of stuff. But all right, so that's it. That's everything that they're asking for. They're going to go get all of this stuff. And, at some point, hundreds of millions of dollars was siphoned off to go to Democrats and journalists and Republicans too, and Mitch McConnell and all of it. All a gigantic scam. So, all right, so that's the bankruptcy filing. Now, we have more updates from the competitor of FTX and SBF. This is the CEO of Binance. He goes by the name of CZ, and he's explaining the call that he had with SBF when he called and said, "Can you buy my company? I am completely screwed."
Take us back, if you could, to when you first got the call from Sam and you first had a chance to look at the books, because I think a lot of people are still trying to understand exactly what happened here. How much of this was about commingling? How much of this was about terrible marking of the books? What did you see?
Yeah, I think I got a call from Sam 24, 48 hours after I made the tweet, and then he wanted to talk. So at the beginning, I thought he would just wanted to, do a buyout on, do an OTC deal to buy out the FTT tokens we had. And then he wanted actually a buyout of the entire firm, of the entire FTX platform. And then, wow. But then we got our team on it. It was pretty clear pretty soon that there's misappropriation of user funds. The user funds are gone. And at that point, it's clearly that he lied to his users, his investors, his VC investors, his employees. At that point, I thought I couldn't, whatever data that's in the data room, we couldn't trust anymore. So it was quite hard for us to do that due diligence. So we didn't go very far.
Obviously, I mean, look what that CEO who is facilitating the bankruptcy had to assemble. You take a look at their spreadsheets, you take a look at their emails. Well, there are no emails. Everything gets auto-deleted. So there is no records. And so Binance, they were going to come and help them. And they were going to say, look, we'll buy up some of your assets so you don't implode. But they saw it and they go, there's nothing we can do about this. You are in too deep of a pool. You cannot swim. We can't save you. This is the CEO of Binance who's saying, we never intended to take out SBF or FTX. We have no interest in doing that. There's no benefit to us to take out a competitor in this very, very new crypto market.
Sam tweeted, "At some point, I might have more to say about a particular sparring partner, so to speak, but glass houses. So for now, all I say is, well played, you won." Can you respond to that?
I think only a psychopath can write that tweet.
Good call. Now, for those of you who have questions about crypto and sort of the adoption of crypto and where might this go in the next 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 years, listen to how he explains this and how sort of little the adoption is at this moment. This was pretty interesting to me.
I'll explain why. Number one is he never told me I was his sparring partner. I'm actually not sure if that tweet is even tweeted at me or us. We're not sure.
Who else would it be?
We can imply, we can guess. But we never view other exchanges as sparring partners, competition. It's not a boxing match. We view this industry so young, so new, The industry is very far from saturated. We're probably at 1%. There's different ways to measure adoption. If we measure like how many people have some kind of crypto on the street, out of 100 people, probably 5 people will have some kind of crypto, depending on the country. But if we measure total asset investing in crypto, of that 5 people, probably on average less than 10%. So probably value-wise, there's probably less than 0.5% adoption in crypto.
Basically none.
So we haven't even reached 1%. We can grow the industry 100x.
Yeah.
And being a larger player in the industry, we will most likely grow with it. Or we can, within this 1%, we can try. We're dominant. We have a dominance in this 1%. But let's say if we take market share away from another smaller player, we grow by our size 1%, which is 0.1% or 0.01% in the grand scheme of things. That's not interesting to us.
Yeah. So he's not thinking about taking out a competitor like that. He's thinking about exponential growth. The crypto market is just so fresh, right? It's so new that it really doesn't serve him to take out FTX and take out the entire, what really could set back the entire crypto industry massively. So, Binance and some of these other entities are now coming under the scrutiny of these regulators when they were working with somebody who we thought was regulated, right? That's why they were so close with Sam, because he was supposedly like the United States' version of the leader of a big crypto exchange. Like they were trying to prop this guy up, and he was funneling a bunch of money back over to them in the meantime. Now, the tape that a lot of people are concerned about is evidently floating out there. I haven't done any research into this, but this was posted on the interwebs, and they said that in less than 24 hours, I think this is a hostage video, but it says SBF and Caroline, who ran Alameda, they must be held accountable. Okay, this is posted all over the interwebs. Their tape is going to be released on an uncensorable webpage on November 18th. Here's what they say. As an FTX insider who wishes to remain anonymous, it is only right to bring the truth to light. Videos from the polycule, whatever that means, is going to bring transparency and humility to this space. They will not wipe this website. They can't. The puff piece from the New York Times has to be balanced out. Please bring awareness to this upcoming leak. Yikes. So, yeah, that doesn't sound too good. But so I haven't done any research into this, but apparently our friend The Quartering has. Of course, he is on YouTube. And here's what he posted for us on Twitter. He said, listen, now The Quartering, if you're not familiar with him, he's got a lot of experience. Okay. He's sort of a hardened internet wizard. And here's what he says. Look, I say this as a man who lived through the most uncensored era of the internet. The live leaks, the beheadings, the faces of death. I implore you, because I really do want what's best for you, do not look up the FTX sex tape. Do not. Period. So, there's your warning. Public service announcement courtesy of The Quartering. Do not. That's what he said. So, we'll take his advice on that one. Now, there are other people who are being asked some interesting questions about this. Hunter Biden was on a Twitter space, and we see this person here asked him a question about FTX and his involvement.
Donald, going off of the FTX thing, the former CEO of FTX, Sam Bankman, was the second largest donor to Democrats this cycle. So, Hunter, I was wondering if you had any insights to what was going on there.
I don't think we want to get into politics with this call. I think that a lot of business leaders in FTX, I think they give to both parties. They're trying to get influence. They're trying to pass bills. But
somebody posted this on Reddit. They said that they were in this Twitter space. And so I don't know how accurate this is or not, but it was pretty funny. You could see this, right? This is chairman. This is somebody who is the speaker. This is Hunter Biden. This is a Twitter space conversation. And Hunter Biden was on a Twitter space. And he was there talking about his artwork. And you can see he's even got this. Is this real? This isn't real. Is this real? I don't know if this is real or not. I can't tell if this is real or not, but it was posted on Reddit and somebody said it was real. I don't know if it's real or not, so take it for what it's worth. But it sounded real to me. It sounded like somebody asked him a question about it and then somebody else jumped in and took him off. Chat's saying it's real. Chat's saying it's not real. I don't know what it is. It feels real to me. Here's why. If we play it again, you see this question gets asked from this guy. Hunter Biden is down here as a speaker, and then he's sort of thrown off. This guy is thrown off the stage. Okay, so as he asks this pointed question, they pull him off the stage, which means he can't ask the question anymore. And the chat is saying it's real. I was there, Rob. Some people are saying that they were there. I was there. So I don't know what it is. Here it is one more time.
Yeah, Donald, going off of the FTX thing, the former CEO of FTX, Sam Bankman, was the second largest donor to Democrats this cycle. So, Hunter, I was wondering if you had any insights to what was going on there.
He got pulled off. They threw him
I don't
off.
think we want to get into politics with this call. I think that a lot of business leaders in FTX, I think they give to both parties. They're trying to get influence. They're trying to pass bills, but
didn't want Hunter to have to answer that question if that is a real thing. I don't know if it's real or not, but I thought it was pretty dang hilarious. Now, yesterday we talked about Mr. Wonderful. Mr. Wonderful, what's his name? Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful from Shark Tank, was named as a defendant in a lawsuit against FTX ambassadors, people who were promoting the brand. Of course, Kevin O'Leary was one of those individuals. And he is sitting down for an interview where he's facing some pretty hard questions about this. And I thought his answer was outstanding. Honestly, I thought he was very vulnerable. I thought that you could sort of see the pain in his face, the shock in his face. And a lot of people are feeling this. And it doesn't matter how wonderful you are, how much money you've got, right? All people get screwed sometimes. And so if you're out there and you're feeling bad about this, right? Mr. Wonderful also is in this situation and he's accepting what I think is responsibility for it. And I think he is sharing in the pain. Let's listen.
Kevin, now that you've gone through this experience, will you think twice before being a spokesperson for other financial companies? Will it make you stop and ask new questions?
I'm a tireless supporter of entrepreneurship and innovation and disruption. I just am. It's why I live. It's why I get up in the morning and do what I do. I'm proud to support innovation. I can't get it right every time. I can't, and I make mistakes, but I'm proud of my track record. I'm totally transparent. I'm 100% honest. I immediately disclosed everything I know about this situation, as I should. I've taken lots of hits for it, but it's not going to stop me. I'm gonna go back and use the words of the great poet James Taylor. I've seen fire and I've seen rain, and I've seen cloudy days when I couldn't find a friend, but I'd always thought I'd have cash flow in the end.
You talk about trustworthiness and how important that is. Sam, days before this whole unwind, was tweeting out to the world that everything was fine. And even if fraud wasn't taking place here, everything was not fine.
The actual minute by minute of what happened there will be eventually disclosed. There is no way to hide it. It's a tragedy. It's a human tragedy. It's a financial tragedy. It's a financial collapse institutionally. But because of the nature of how these transactions are recorded on the chain, it will all be transparent eventually.
We're going to see it.
And Sam will have to account for that. And there'll be no choice for him. And what I say about these situations is always, I don't trade on rumor. I need fact. But and I don't have any, and you don't, no one does. And so we're speculating like crazy. remarkably, I will say this, that this onion will be peeled a lot faster than other financial collapses due to the auditability and transparency of the blockchain. You're going to find this fascinating. You'll be covering this story for the next couple of years.
Whoa.
And the outcome is unknown.
Whoa.
But it is a remarkable human story. It really is. I mean, it's very difficult. And, I talked to my kids about it. I've talked to lots of people about it. I'm living it. I'm in the middle of it. But it doesn't change what I'm going to do when I get up tomorrow morning. I'm still going to have a portfolio in crypto. I'm still going to advance the investments I've made. I'm going to support entrepreneurs that want to disrupt financial services. It's not about blockchain or crypto. That's not what this is about. Those will go on. They will survive this. This will become, my speculation, in the next decade, the 12th sector of the S&P.
Still bullish on crypto, saying that the S&P will eventually incorporate this sort of financial instrument into their analysis and into their structure, but saying, man, I'm going to wake up, do the same thing that I've been always doing, maybe with a little bit more, bigger microscope on 29-year-old cracked out entrepreneurs. Maybe not. I don't know. That's Mr. Wonderful. And what I heard there was that there's going to be a lot more to this story. The layers of the onion will continue to be peeled. We're going to learn more. Now, he says that all this will be auditable because it's on the blockchain. Okay, I understand that. But once it comes off the blockchain, like once it comes out of the Bank of Ukraine, or once it comes out of the bank here in the United States and ends up in a Democratic politician's campaign fund, how do we claw that back? Are we going to be able to see that? Only time will tell. John J. III, who is leading the bankruptcy filing, sounds like he's going to do a heck of a job, and we will continue to cover it. So wherever it is you're watching this, thank you for subscribing. Thank you for following along, and we'll see you on the next one.